Welcome to an introduction to ICD-10 PCS coding. Let's give a little background on why we're transitioning from ICD-9 procedure coding to ICD-10 PCS coding. ICD-9 procedure coding, or Volume 3, was developed in 1979. The codes are limited to 3 and 4 digits, and unfortunately, with the evolution of more complex surgical procedures, ICD-9 CM procedural coding is not able to support all the new procedures. So it became necessary to develop a new system. CMS, or the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, contracted with 3M Health Information Systems to develop a new system for procedural coding. 3M developed ICD-10 PCS coding. On October 1st, 2014, ICD-10 PCS will replace Volume 3 of ICD-9 CM codes. ICD-10 PCS codes will be used to report inpatient procedures. In the development of ICD-10 PCS, general principles were followed in creating these codes. Procedure descriptions do not contain any diagnostic information. A disease or disorder is reflected in diagnosis coding, not in procedure coding. Not otherwise specified, or NOS options, are not provided in ICD-10 PCS. Not elsewhere classified, or NEC, has limited options in ICD-10 PCS. NEC codes may need to be referenced when a new procedure is performed that has not yet been assigned a proper ICD-10 PCS code. However, using NEC will be temporary because ICD-10 PCS is designed that a new code will be able to be created for the new procedure. Procedures currently used and being performed can be specified in ICD-10 PCS code book with the use of a 7-character code. So all procedures will be coded using 7 alphanumeric codes. The ICD-10 PCS codes contain 7 characters. These characters can be letters or numbers. Each alphanumeric character has specific meaning or value depending on its place in the lineup. Each code is made up of any one of the 10 digits 0 through 9, and any one of the 24 letters A through H, J through N, and P through Z. You will note that only 24 letters are used. 2 letters, O and I, are not used because we don't want them to be confused with the numbers 0 and 1. In coding ICD-9 CM procedure coding Volume 3, a coder would go to Volume 3 index, look up the description of the surgical procedure performed, and then go to the code and assign the code. In ICD-10 PCS, codes are not assigned. They are built character by character. In ICD-10 PCS coding, you have 7 characters. You have the section, the body system, the root operation, the body part, the approach, the device, and the qualifier. In building an ICD-10 PCS code, let's break down the different characters. The first character is section, and this signifies the broad procedure category or section where the code is found. The second character is body system, and this defines the body system or the general physiological system or anatomical region involved. In coding ICD-10 PCS, it is so important for a coder to understand their anatomy and physiology. The third character is the root operation. This identifies the objective of the procedure, and there are 31 different root operation values. Continuing on building an ICD-10 PCS code, the fourth character is body part, and this defines the body part or specific anatomical site where the procedure was performed. The body system and body part values together provide a precise description of the procedure site. The fifth character is approach. It defines the approach or technique used to reach the procedure site. There are 7 different approach values comprised of 3 components. You have axis location, method, and instrumentation. The sixth character is devices, and this refers only to those left in place at the end of a procedure. For example, 4 basic categories: grafts and prosthesis, implants, simple or mechanical appliances, and electronic appliances. And the 7th character is the qualifiers, and this specifies an additional attribute of the procedure if applicable. Let's get into a little more detail. So the first character always specifies the section. There are 16 sections in the ICD-10 PCS manual. We are going to be covering all 16 sections in this course. The first 6 sections of the ICD-10 PCS coding manual are medical surgical, which has an identifier of 0, obstetrics, which has an identifier of 1, placement has an identifier of 2, administration has an identifier of 3, measurement and monitoring has an identifier of 4, and extracorporeal assistance and performance has an identifier of 5. Continuing on with the sections and identifiers, you then have extracorporeal therapies, which has an identifier of 6, osteopathic, which has an identifier of 7, other procedures, identifier is 8, chiropractic, the identifier is 9. Now, imaging's identifier is a B. Nuclear medicine's identifier is a C. Radiation oncology's identifier is a D. In the last of the sections, physical rehabilitation and diagnostic audiology has an identifier of F. Mental health identifier is G. And substance abuse identifier is H. And we will be covering each of these sections in detail as this course goes along. The 2nd through 7th characters may have the same meanings within each section, but may have a different meaning in other sections. In order to identify the specific meanings, the tables must be referenced. We will go into more detail as this course progresses and as we get into the specific chapters within this course. How does a coder locate a code in the ICD-10 PCS manual? In order to locate a code, the coder needs to understand the overall format of the book. The manual is divided into the introduction, the index, tables, and appendices. It is important for the coder to first read the introduction. It details the history of ICD-10 PCS, the number of codes in ICD-10 PCS. It provides specific information about various sections of PCS, outlining the character meanings for each section, as well as the specific definitions for the various character values. Prior to selecting codes, coders need to read the introduction. The index is the starting point when selecting a code. The index is the guide to the tables which contain the specific characters needed to build your code. Commonly used terms or general types of procedures are found in the index, which supplies at a minimum the first 3 characters of a code. Using the characters identified in the index, the coder should then reference the correct PCS table. So a coder always has to start at the index. Based on the 3 values of the code that the coder found in the index, then the corresponding table can be located. When coding in ICD-10 PCS, the tables are used to identify groups of codes and to organize them in a way that make it easy to select a code. In ICD-10 PCS, tables also allow coders to build their codes. The specific tables in the sections in ICD-10 PCS, for example, medical and surgical, obstetrics, oncology, etc., are identified by the first characters just above the table. In some tables, the coder will notice that the table contains various rows. When selecting characters from a given table, characters can only be selected from a single row. The tables and characters are arranged first by number, then by letter for each character. The table section must be used to contract a complete and valid code. Let's code a procedure. So the procedure is a right total mastectomy open approach. So first thing you need to do is go to the index. And under the index, you're going to reference the term mastectomy. Now, you will find two subterms, excision and resection. You need to make a choice. Is a mastectomy an excision or is a mastectomy a resection? That means you need to know the definitions of an excision versus a resection by PCS guidelines. If you look at PCS guidelines, you're going to code a resection because the guidelines read, resection of a specific body part is coded whenever all of the body part is cut out or off, rather than coding excision of a less specific body part. So once you choose resection, you now locate the table 0HT. Then you need to select the appropriate 4th to 7 digits. So we know we have a right total mastectomy, open approach. So the correct code will be 0HTT0ZZ. So in review, some key points to remember when coding ICD-10 PCS. Diagnostic information is never included in the description of procedures found in ICD-10 PCS. If you're coding diagnostic information, you're going to be coding ICD-10 CM. ICD-10 PCS is for procedures only. ICD-10 PCS always contains 7 alphanumeric characters. And in order to code, you always have to go to the index first. Sections are identified with either a letter or a number. And again, make sure you always reference the index first when coding procedures. That is key to being able to code correctly in ICD-10 PCS. Remember, the index contains a list of 3 to 4 characters. After you reference the index and get your list of 3 to 4 characters, you then need to go to the table. The tables will define all of the characters, and the final code is built from the information within the tables. Let's do a practice exercise. Please code an open excision of the median nerve. And remember, where are you going to go first? So, first place you go is the index, and the main term to reference is excision. Then, what's excised? A nerve. So your modifying term is nerve. What nerve? The median. So you build your code, and your code comes out to 01B50ZZ.